Welcome back to the Fight for Your City podcast. Today, I have a great friend with me, Todd Morgan. Todd is the lead pastor of the Gathering here in Evansville. To me, it's one of the most influential churches in our city. It's actually where my wife got baptized years ago when the Hills had started. They had been in y'all's building, and that's where my wife was baptized. I had the blessing a few months ago of going to one of your services for the first time. So Todd, just really quickly, people who don't know you, can you let them know your testimony, let them know how you got involved at the Gathering?
Well, wow. Well, if ever there is a church that is true to its name, the Gathering, that is what we are. We are a gathering of people from all kinds of walks of life, north, south, east, and west. And God has uniquely drawn us, of all places, to downtown Evansville, probably the one location people would say, oh, you never want to have a church at. And that's exactly where we're at. And God used us as a lighthouse to draw people in and a hospital on the inside. And my connection with the Gathering really goes back all the way to 28 years ago. I first got saved, and the youth pastor I got saved under was Pastor Ray Brown. And as many years have evolved, he is the founding pastor of the Gathering Church. And so, probably, about 5 years ago, we had moved away. We had come back to Evansville. And he had reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking to hire this position within our church. And I said, that's great. And so I sent him names of about 5 different people, say, these guys are great guys to talk with. And then he didn't come back and said, no, I'm really talking about you. And the role that they were wanting at that time was really significant for the church. This is about 2020. So the beautiful thing was there's a lot of churches, a lot of ministries that were doing what they thought was best, whichever direction that was. Some thought it maybe is best to pull back or make these changes. The leadership of the Gathering at that time said, you know what, we're going to go all in. And so we're putting all of our chips to the middle of the table.
What were those chips you were putting in then?
Financially, they're going all in. And in the midst, when people are cutting back, we're going to bring on a full-time salary, a full-time pastor. Wow. And so that's what they did. And so I come in 2020 and really didn't think that a lot of what I was stepping into, I thought those pages had already turned in my life. But I come in to be a family pastor that time there, and really from day one, they brought me in to develop a whole other side of their church. Yeah, it was really more adult driven at that time, very recovery based, which we still are. But there was a lot of elements for the family components that were missing, and so I came in and we plugged those in. But I would say really though from day one, he was very upfront. He's like, you know what, there's going to be a time where I want to transition and bring in as lead pastor. And so I've been in ministry for 28 years now. And so my response was always, I said, okay. I said, I'll just follow your lead, And so about 2 years ago, he said, hey, that time is ready. And it's been a beautiful transition. I really hope as years progress that our church is a model for how other pastors and ministries can transition and do so successfully. Yeah. Because we have. And I think at the source of that has been his humility. We transitioned not at a low point in our church. We transitioned at very much a high point, which I think needs to be understood as well too. Yeah. And so we have continued to progress and continue to move forward for the cause of Christ.
That's awesome. I want to talk about succession for a bit because I've been a part of a failed succession. I've had friends who have been part of failed successions. One of the things I think that goes so wrong is when the church doesn't have a clear vision of what's next. How upfront was Pastor Ray that this guy is going to be the lead pastor after I step down? Like, do you think the church was aware of it, or was it kind of a surprise when that announcement was made?
Well, I would say from our story, again, it's going to start with the heart and the vision of the founding pastor. And so his take had always been to lead with a very much open approach and not a closed fist. And I know that his heart, he had seen firsthand for many years that there were a lot of great churches, a lot of great pastors that in many ways probably held on way too long. And then they come to the point that, okay, geez, I'm ready to transition. And because they had not properly prepared or discipled or trained up not only someone to come under them, but also for their church, train up their church to receive that next person, they find themselves in scramble mode. And so they quickly try to plunge someone or thrust someone into that position.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that can cause problems, and so you see a lot. So from his standpoint, I think the church is new, and he had always led with a very open approach. He's still on staff right now.
Oh, wow,
and
really?
So, yeah, absolutely.
That's not supposed to work.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Most of the time, I will say most of the time it doesn't work.
He's still on staff full time, there every day, and yeah, you're right. That's something a lot of people have said. Well, what about the founding pastor? Well, he's there. He's still there every day. And so, but a lot of that starts with his mentality and his approach, his heart, humility, and able to serve. And because of that, we, in these last days and times, we truly are running a race. And as you do in a race, because of his ability to properly hand that baton off, our church has not stumbled, but we've continued in stride to move forward to the work God's called us to.
That's awesome. I was talking with a friend actually earlier today about that word humility. And let me ask you, from working and serving alongside Pastor Ray, when you saw humility in him, a humility that allowed him to continue to be on staff in a leadership role in the church alongside you, even though you're, supposed to be in title, we'll say, titles aren't everything, but the lead. What's the difference between an authentic humility where a man can do that, and then besides maybe the false humility or the appearance of humility that a lot of leaders in churches have?
Well, I would say in our position, something that we had that the church has greatly benefited from has been immense trust between both he and myself, and that's not something that comes quickly. That has to be developed over time, and so because of that immense trust, it works both ways. There's immense trust from him to me in that transition. He's the founding pastor of this church. But likewise, it's also an immense trust for me to him, that in the midst of that initial phase of transition, to give him the space and ability and to be very forthcoming and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to pin you in a corner. What do you want to do? How do you want to continue to serve within this church and this ministry? And because of that, we have been able to find kind of I would say a sweet spot for him and what he's doing, and he's been able to grow and flourish those areas within our church, which has been beautiful. So I would say for us in that role, it was just that. It was immense trust both ways, and the end result is our church has benefited from that. Our community has benefited from that, and we just continue to move forward.
Yeah, well, that's great, man. So let's just say if there's a church that's in a situation like that, they have a pastor, I don't know what it is, maybe it's his health, maybe it is his age, and he's just wanting to retire. What advice would you give to a pastor who's looking to transition out of his church? Is it start as soon as possible? Is it that you need to look within the church, you need to look outside the church, or is there really no set model that can be done? It's just going to be church to church, pastor to pastor.
Well, I'm sure somebody somewhere has a model, and they're probably selling it for a good price somewhere. So, from that standpoint. But I will say that, and I say this forthcoming because of our discussion. I started thinking about our church's replacement of me probably within 2 weeks of me starting in that lead pastor role.
Yeah. And how old are you, Todd?
I am 44.
Yeah.
And so, so that process for me, again, because what was opportunity that was given to me, why would I not want to give that same opportunity to the next person?
Yeah.
And continue on that succession. And so I guess to answer your question, it's going to start with the leadership. There are individuals out there, I'm sure, that maybe they sit on people, and I've seen ministries and places that held on to people way too long. They held on to people way too tight. Yeah. And because of that, they thought their ability to hold on to those people would, that somehow the calling on their life, that God would mend that to benefit that person. But reality, what happens is when you hold on to someone so tight, God's calling stronger than that grip, and He will rip them out of your hands, and it causes a break.
I've seen that happen. It's almost like this happens with a lot of sports teams sometimes, like such as in the NBA. There's a limited number of minutes, and there's 15 guys on the team. Somebody is going to sit the bench, and sometimes teams get so loaded, right, that there ends up being a cap for the young guy who knows he can perform better, and if he performs better, he'll make more money. But he feels stuck, and that's not to say that church is about money. It's not. None of us got into this to make money, because either we've been cheats or we've been vastly disappointed with that. But there is a real thing about there's sometimes maybe there's a guy he's working in youth ministry, family ministry, worship ministry, but he feels that calling to take on more responsibility, to have a deeper role. But because of how his church is structured, he's being capped at what he can do. And I've seen it lead to some pretty heartbreaking breaks in the church just because he couldn't live out the calling that God had set on him. So I absolutely see what you're saying. How much notice were you given by Pastor Ray that you were going to be?
Well, yeah, that was in discussion, from day one.
Day one.
Yeah, day one. And so again, you got to keep in mind too what they had asked me to do within the church. I was, I'm really good at. So it wasn't like I was just itching to get away from what I was doing to step into something different. So, and so I had no problem operating within the talents that God had given to me. But with that being said, but again, my response to him during that time was always and sincerely, even up until the very day, like, hey. I'm gonna follow your lead. When you're ready to go, that's great. Or ready to transition, not ready to go. But but I've also will say too, and this is probably this is just my opinion. Many times I think God's calling in those that step into leadership or even pastoral roles. Like if you're someone that's out there beating your chest and desiring and wanting to jump in that role, but you're probably not the right person. I mean, the calling that God has in our lives within leadership often times comes with hesitation, comes with resistance, it comes with you're looking around thinking, are you really talking to me? You really want me to step into this role? Those tend to be throughout Scripture the ones that God just finds a way of using, because what happens is in the midst of those pockets, those gaps of can I really do this, or are you really wanting me to do this? There are pockets of faith and trust and guidance that only the Lord can fill. And so, and that certainly was the case for us. I mean, it wasn't like I was just, I have pastored churches before, so I've planted churches before. I've been involved for ministry for almost 30 years, and so it wasn't like I was just looking to intentionally bring on more responsibility, from that role there. But I will say probably about maybe 6 or 7 months prior to that actual moment, I internally just felt a shift within me. It's about midsummer of that year leading into it. And I came home to my wife. I said, that this is coming. This is coming. I just feel that shift. I sense that. He did as well too. And so we both knew it was time to do that.
And one thing I've always found is that there has to be that authentic shift. Because I try and tell people this all the time. Titles don't matter. You can call someone the lead pastor. It doesn't mean the people will see him as the lead. That needs to happen before the title ever shifts. And even we can give each other names of lead pastors, family pastor, whatever title or authority we're going to give you. That doesn't matter unless there is the Spirit of God and the willingness to take on the responsibility first before the title. Because ministry just comes with you obviously want to be involved in the stuff that you're good at and gifted at. But ministry, there's always that step beyond that, right?
Absolutely.
Like you can come in to be a preacher, but you're going to be a carpenter too, and you're going to be an electrician, and you're going to be a counselor, and you're going to be a finance manager. And there's so many times as a young pastor, when I stepped into that, I was like, man, I just wanted to preach, but now I'm having to make these building decisions and look through blueprints, and I'm scared out of my mind doing it because this isn't what I signed up for. Mm-hmm. This isn't the responsibility I thought was going to be given to me.
Absolutely, and that's the resistance. That's the hesitation that often you say. Now, let me come back to a point that you had talked about earlier about those that are in different areas of ministry. Maybe they want to progress to something different. Yeah. And if they're watching this, they're listening to this, I want to share this story with them. There was a ministry here in Evansville that still operates today that the Lord used me at a very young age to help start and be a part of from the very beginning. And as that went along, they began to hire people for roles within that ministry to help lead that. And very early on, like I was passed over for those opportunities like 8 times in a row. And so what I had to learn through that was I had to learn how to celebrate those that were coming in ahead of me.
Absolutely.
And learn how to support and learn how to, even though oftentimes they would lean on me for guidance, but still learn how to honor and support those that were ahead of you. And so, for someone that you find yourself getting passed over, listen, just understand that the Lord's got you in a position where you need to learn how to celebrate those who are ahead of you. Realize who you're working for. You're working for the Lord, and operate within that. And within that right time, that right moment, the Lord will absolutely have the right opportunity for you and transition you in that time.
Yeah. And I would say jealousy is persistent, not just among some of the young guys in ministry, young girls in ministry, but even the old. Like you can become comparative. Like I found it in myself. Like I have friends I went to college with, friends, in ministry with. Their churches started doing better in attendance, more baptisms. And there's a thing where the devil wants to use that to eat at you, right? To make you feel not good enough, to make you try and copycat what someone else is doing. And I absolutely see that. I will say this, just to make it clear to you, some of the individuals that I was talking about, one thing I think that they ran into a lot of was not necessarily there was people being passed over them, but they wanted to grow in their skill set because they felt they were being called to grow in their skill set. And it's not even like they were looking for a better title or more pay. It was just more if they wanted to be used for more, but they were just kind of this box, right? No, you're this box. You just do this, you just do that.
Gotcha.
And I think honestly, what a lot of churches should do sometimes is have that encouragement to even send out guys into the world.
Absolutely.
Like maybe they can't grow that. Maybe it's just there's so much going on they can't grow there, but they could be like such a bigger blessing to other places.
Sure, absolutely. And that's, I would say probably, again, I'm talking probably kind of with a wide paintbrush here, but I would say that's probably an approach on the church as a whole that we probably have missed in a lot of ways. And that's the beauty of releasing and the beauty of sending out.
Yeah.
And I just was with somebody last week who was in our church and active, involved, he and his wife, and we're doing a lot of great things. And they came to myself and our leadership and said, hey, we're really feeling led to be called to this other church. And so, without question, we were like, hey, yeah, absolutely. And let's not just, have you not show up. Let's have you come in front of the congregation, and release you and bless you properly. There's beauty in that. And he had told the other pastor that was with him, he said, we just did that so well. Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to release people and send people out so that when you see them out in the community or whatever it is, there's still that connection relationship there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it doesn't always happen, but it can. And I think there's a great way to do that and to bless that. And so we've done that. We want to continue to do that. I've asked the Lord to position us to be able to release and send those out from this ministry into not just the city, but throughout our country, throughout our world. And we believe so much in that. We just launched what's called School of Kingdom Ministry right here in Evansville.
Really?
Yep.
What's School of Kingdom Ministry?
So we are a satellite location. We're the only one within about a 75 to 80 mile radius of Evansville, all directions. And it's just what you think it is. It's a school of kingdom ministry. We meet once a week, 2 hours a day, and it's focused on teaching, activations, and then also practicing. So there's biblical teaching, There's activations as within all of us that we have moments to understand what is the Lord speaking to us and through us, and how that can be encouraging to those that are across from us. And then practicing those things out in real life situations outside the church as well.
So it's like a school of like equipping, not just the pastors, but the ministry leaders.
We are equipping the church. And so right now we've launched this with 48, a group of 48, and it's just been fantastic.
Awesome,
we're equipping, we're discipling, we're teaching, and we're not afraid that, when God calls them out, let's send you out and bless you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your property of God's kingdom, not property of the Gathering Church. And so let's move in that direction.
And that's the mindset that so many churches adopt. I think because it's I tell pastors there's a difference between growing out of survival and growing out of calling. In the essence of evangelism, wanting to get people in. And so many churches, they get, especially, so many churches have been such on the downshift for the last 30, 50 years, is that they're so afraid of losing anybody. I remember my dad, who, is a pastor, still pastor at Grace United General Baptist Church in Pearland, Arkansas, he would always tell the church, when we say the youth is the future of the church, we don't necessarily mean this church. He knew that the youth group there, some of them, would stay, and a lot of them are there. They run the band and everything else. But a lot of them, like me, we went out. We went out and pastored other churches, our leaders at other churches. They wanted their church to be a blessing to the universal church, as it would, not just their set of people, which is exactly what y'all are working on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To switch things a little bit, if someone had never been to the Gathering Church, was not a person who lived in Evansville, how would you describe the Gathering Church to them?
Well, we are a lively bunch. How about that? So we're a lively bunch. And again, we hold true to our name, and we are just a gathering of people. We are absolutely on the front line of life with so many that come through our doors, and we wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest with you. And so, so I would say, again, we are a church filled with those who have been broken, but we've been restored, lost, but we've been found, and we've been redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, and so through that, I would say we're a lot of fun too. We have a good time, so we're a lot of fun.
Let me say this, and let me know, like I told you before, I love the Gathering. When I went to the Gathering a few months ago, I brought some friends with me, and when I went there, they looked at me bug-eyed and said, "Jonah, where in the world did you bring us?" Because you're talking about you're reaching people that are thought to be like the unchurched.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a weird place to be. First thing I walk in, I see a dude out front. He's got a green suit jacket on with an American Fighter shirt under it.
Right, yeah.
But it was the thing. I'm like, this was so real.
Yeah.
This was not just people coming in, getting their church in and leaving. Right. They're experiencing that gathering, the community, the presence of God there.
Yeah.
Reaching everybody.
Yeah. That's
from the people like me and our friend Chad, who we've gone to church our entire life, to people. This is probably this might be the first generation that's actively involved in church.
Very, very true. That's a great example and great description as well. And again, we're very humbled by that, and we don't take that for granted, and are very, very, very thankful that God has called us and used us in such a way to be there. At the beginning of this year, as leadership, we had met and we said, hey, we've been approached about selling our facility, and so we had some discussion on that. And so I think the end result is two things. Number one was, like, if we did sell our building, then what? Like then what we do. Yeah. But really, probably the more focus point would be, the question was why? Like, this is clearly where God is using us at in such a unique way. Why would we want to go somewhere else when God's clearly using us right here? And so that was a pretty easy decision. But I think to come back to what you has said and shared, I mean, we think collectively we've done a good job of understanding this is who we are, this is who God's calling us to be, and we don't intentionally try to be or do anything else outside of what God is calling us to be. And so in our ministry, our focal points are right there on the wall. It's recovery, it's family ministry, it's outreach. Those are three avenues that really drive our ministry. And as you come in, there's a big sign to your right, and it says Life Together. And that is the drive to our church. It's life together with God, life together with each other.
And the crazy and what makes y'all so crazy is that y'all not only let those people into church on Sunday, but you make them a part of your leadership. When I was there was a dude giving the message on stage who had been through recovery.
Yeah.
Why are y'all crazy enough to do that? When I pastor churches, they don't want those people coming through the doors. You're letting them lead. You're letting them speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. I think it's a pretty good track record of people that God has used that you never thought they would be used.
Absolutely.
And so if God's word is true, then let us hold true to that. And let's just not read it, but let's live it out.
Absolutely. Let me say this about the Gathering. I've had friends that have wanted to start churches with a vision, not the exact same, obviously, but similar to the Gathering. If I was to go to a church planning network, there some people who don't know this about churches unless they planted churches, there's whole businesses that are devoted to you send a couple or a pastor to them and they give a green light or a red light to is this plant going to be successful? Should you give your money to start it? Like in my movement and a lot of other movements, they put you through these, and if you don't pass it, they don't give you the money to plant a church. Are you familiar with these?
To a certain degree.
Yeah. They're out there, and they play a focal role in some denominations and movements, some not as much. If I was to give them an outline that I was going to plant a church similar to the Gathering, I believe it would almost unanimously be no. They would say it would fail. It's not going to work. You're not going to have enough money. These people are they're going to come for handouts, and they don't want more than that. They would tell me I would almost put all my money on that unanimously. They would say it would fail within a year.
I'll say you're probably right.
And then y'all. But why is it that how is it that y'all can exist?
Yeah.
How is it that all of these quote unquote church experts who refuse to fund this, who say this isn't going to work, this is not going to be successful, and yet y'all have multiple services, people are parking on the street.
Yeah.
And not only are they coming in, they're getting saved, they're staying there and becoming leaders. How is it that y'all have worked when all the experts have said it's not going to work?
That is a great question. And honestly, I probably acknowledge and say, yeah, you're absolutely right with everything you just said, truthfully, 100%. And so let me answer that with two responses here. One is, you lift up Jesus and men will be drawn to that. That's number one. Number two is, and this is really at the heart of our leadership, and really my drive as we continue to move forward. And that's the blueprint of Acts chapter 2. That's the blueprint of the church, and that's really the blueprint of the Gathering.
Yeah.
It's Acts chapter 2. Well, what is that? Well, Acts chapter 2 is that you preach Jesus, you preach the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Christ. And you do so in a manner that will lead those who are listening to a moment of repentance, which is what happens.
Yeah.
Out of repentance, then you always have those waters ready. We have been in an incredible move of baptism and have been for years, and are seeing that this move isn't just obviously within our church; it's across the country in many ways. I truly, sincerely cannot tell you a Sunday at the Gathering we have not had a baptism, and we're thankful for that, and we're humbled by that and honored that. I mean, we're but I just can't. And so you go from repentance to baptism, and then here's where folks kind of get lost in the shuffle. Nobody has problems with preaching Jesus. Nobody has problems with leading people to repentance. Nobody has problems with baptism. But there's two more components there that people tend to lose sight of, and that is this here. Talks about how they break bread together.
Yeah.
And there's a time component that you have in relationship building with the people God has sent to you that sometimes we're so focused on the building, we lose sight of the one-on-one that's across from. I mean, that's been at the heart of our church, is that relationship, that building, that breaking bread together. Even within our feeding ministry, you people don't realize, but we do 3,500 to 4,000 meals a month out of our church.
Wow.
People don't realize that we have 8 to 9 feeding programs. That's not just handing handing someone a box of food with a bunch of random goods in it. It's more than that. Then finally, the other component is that they not just break bread together, which is obviously physically, but it's also a reflection of worshiping together. But they choose to live life together, and that's the last component there. And so I think what you said is so true. It's so right. It tickles me because I do agree.
Yeah.
But the blueprint of the gathering has very intentionally been those components.
Yeah.
And those things have been laid out for us from the very beginning. And I think through that, obviously, there was a great response to that. But I think the Bible really highlights this here, that it's not about the quantity as much as it was the quality.
Yeah.
You know, that quality time with people is what grows. And so it is a special work, and I'm very humbled and honored. I just think about my life and all the steps I've led up to where we're at now. Yeah. It's a pretty special work, and we thank the Lord for that. I really do.
I have a lot of questions that come out of that. One, what does breaking bread look like on a daily basis? So when you talk about building that community beyond just, we have a food pantry. A bunch of churches have food pantries.
That's right.
A bunch of them have clothing pantries, and a lot of them are stopping doing it because they're not getting anyone to church from it.
That's right. As a matter of fact, I got a friend of mine, I talked to him this morning, and they run the largest food pantry in the entire county that they're in, and have been for a number of years. And if you ask them, they'll tell you that their church hasn't grown 1 ounce from it.
Yeah.
So
why do they do it? What's the use?
That's exactly right. And to be honest with you, as far as feeding goes, I'm talking about physically feeding people. I mean, again, we do meals. Our Sunday mornings start. There'll be 50, 60 people lined out our front door before the door opens at 9. And we roll into a hot breakfast ministry that we have there. And we do meals on Sunday. We do meals on Monday. We have meals on Wednesday as well too, feeding. Our food pantry program has changed and evolved, and I really give credit to Pastor Ray on that. But again, I'm just in conversation. This is just my experience. You got a church in ministry that steps into feeding and food pantries, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
You need to be careful with that, because what will happen is that your community will see you only as a feeding hub and not an actual destination of spiritual growth. So they'll come in, they'll receive, and they'll walk out.
Yeah.
And there's a breaking connection. And so we went through this. Probably within a year and a half, 2 years ago, we were going. I sensed it. I felt it. I felt like people were coming in, but they weren't really transitioning into the church element of what we had, and it was a concern for me. And so I was able to sit down with our leadership and I said, hey guys, we got to make this turn, or this wave is going to overtake us. Yeah. And we're not going to be in a spot that we really want to be in. And so we did that, and we've made that turn. A big part of that is thinking outside the box. And so we just opened up what's called a shopping experience at the church. And so instead of just handing someone a box of random goods with things you just threw in there and say, hey, see you next month. We've brought a lot more personal touch where people come in, they have a shopping cart. We turned our entire social hall into a grocery store. And so individuals are coming through, grabbing items that they really want, not just thrown at them, along with people who are at these destination points, making contact with people, praying with them, meeting with them, talking with them. And so we had such a response from that. We've opened up our sanctuary. So people come in, they sit in there, we play worship music. We have a variety of things go on in there as well too. And all in all, it's helped bring that relationship component. So you asked about breaking bread. That's an example of that. Yeah. It's breaking bread, not just throwing a loaf of bread at somebody. Yeah. And there's a difference in that mindset.
It also breaks the transactional relationship. Like I'm getting something from you. And I think that is probably what's missing in so many of these pantries. Is just we come in, you need something, and give it to you, and they're gone. But instead there's the mission of, we're going to use this time to have a relationship with you. Even if you don't want it, we're going to at least try and get to know your name and pray with you if we can. Absolutely.
And again, I'm really excited for our ministry and church to have the courage to step out in something a little different, a little new in that, and be able to make that turn. And truthfully, we're healthier because of that. we're healthier because of that. We make that connection. Again, it's breaking bread, not just giving someone a loaf of bread. We're having that connection, that moment with them.
When I went to the Gathering Church a few months ago, I told you it just filled my soul because it was there. There's nothing. One thing I think about church services sometimes, and I'm victim to this as a pastor too. I was so obsessed with making everything so polished. I wanted the stage to look polished. I wanted every chord to be hidden. I wanted there just to be the best transitions between songs. I wanted the graphics on the screen to look, a specific way. I wanted the sanctuary to look so clean. I wanted every song to be perfect, like it was Chris Tomlin singing up there. Mm-hmm. This isn't to say the sanctuary wasn't clean. It's not to say that the sanctuary wasn't there, but I can tell y'all's focus wasn't necessarily on the polish. You're making everything look perfect.
That's great. That's a great point, man. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Here's what I'm getting. It added to it. Mm-hmm. This was authentic. This was real people. This wasn't just people sitting down, standing up, and going through the motions. Everyone was, you could tell physically, visibly, spiritually there, everyone was bringing in a battle they were fighting in the presence of that place. Mm-hmm. And how was it that came together at the gathering, that people could be so open and emotional and vulnerable in that moment instead of just transactional Christianity? Mm-hmm. I come in, I sit down, I get my Jesus, and I leave.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's a great point, man. I love that, and I really appreciate you bringing that up. So we obviously, we intentionally, we strive to be excellent in what we do, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a certain balance there, that there's an understanding amongst our teams that's expressed, that men and women and people that come in and come out of our building, they're not going to walk away and say, wow, my life was changed because of that great graphic on the screen. Mm-hmm. They're not, wow. Wow.
Canva didn't lead me to Jesus.
I'm going to go and sin no more because there wasn't a single chord on the platform I could find. They walk away saying, I was in that place and I felt the presence of the Lord.
Yeah. Was it like,
I say this often, like, our words, my words as a minister, it's not going to change your life. It may influence, but the change occurs between you and the Lord. That's where that change is at. And people are going to go away saying, I felt the presence of the Lord. Their connection with what they experience with God should be greater than what they experience with what's before them, on a screen or a graphic or whatever may be. Yeah. So that's an element that we there's a balance there. I'll be honest with you, there really is.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a balance there. You don't want to get one side or the other, but you just have that mindset of that people are going to leave with, like, I had an encounter with the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what's real.
So let's say if you were to come up to me, let's just say even 2 years ago, when I'm obsessed with all these things, I'm literally so stressed out pastoring a church, I develop a twitch in my eye.
Yeah, sure,
like
buddy.
How bad it was.
Yep.
If you could have met me 2 years ago and explained to me this lesson, what would you have told me to do differently?
Absolutely, 100%. I would have said, don't overcomplicate it. Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You don't overcomplicate it. Your ministry is challenging. Mm-hmm. It really is. It is. And it's challenging because we care for people, and that's the challenging part. Mm-hmm. But I think oftentimes within ministry, within leadership, we can really overcomplicate things that don't need to be overcomplicated.
Okay.
Jesus changed the world with a handful of guys, right?
Yeah.
By and large. And so, let's be more focused on the audience of one than we are the audience of many.
Okay. Then how does that work then after, let's say, the lead pastor accepts that? How does that then begin to be passed down to the other ministry leaders, your average members, average attendees, where, you start focusing more on the presence of God and not just the perfectionism, we'll say. Mm-hmm. But how does that begin to get passed down to everybody else?
Well, I think as many things operate, within this world, it starts from top down. So that's an approach that you have with leadership that's expressed to to your elders. I'll give an example. Our last elders meeting. Actually, our the one before our last one was like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It was filled with all great stuff.
Wow.
But it was 2 hours and 20 minutes long. So our last elders meeting, I walked in the room there with our leadership. I said, guys, last time we were together, we met for 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's way too long. And so I took a red marker. I set it in the middle of the table. There were 50 topics on a dry erase board. And I told our group, go to that board, share with what the Lord's leading you to, circle that, and lead us in prayer for that specific topic. And that's our meeting today. Simple, not overcomplicated, and because we want to be Spirit-led and we want to pray for those things. We can get and this is only expressed because you don't express these things unless you've been there. Yeah. So I've been there. I've been in that overcomplicating mindset, and probably within just last number of years, you just step back and realize, you know what, like the growth of this ministry is not going to be on the back or effort of one person or myself. It's going to be through the Lord. He's going to grow this or bless it. And if it's not growing in quantity, well then, Lord, let us grow in quality, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Just to put it out there with people, I would love if you just took the time. If you could just say 3 areas, what are 3 areas that you're seeing pastors just overcomplicate in their leading of the church today? What are 3 areas that's causing them to get stressed out, taking away from them being spiritual leaders, instead looking more like business leaders maybe? But if you just give three subjects, 3 things that pastors are overcomplicating nowadays.
Watering down the word.
Okay, what does that look like?
I think, delivering a message that you think is more appealing to the ears of people than the hearts of people. I would say that'd be number 1. I would say probably number 2, searching for more of the approval of those that you're pastoring than you are the approval of the Lord in your life. I would say would be number 2. And number 3, I'll probably reference something that was spoken to me a long time ago by an old preacher, a guy named Brother Van, many, many years ago. And he said, if you set out to start a church, to grow it and build it, you're probably going to fail. If you set out to start a church to help people and to lead them to the Lord, you're going to be just fine. And so, are you operating with the intention of growth, or are you operating within the intention of helping those that God is putting before you? And so I'd say quickly, those are 3 things off the top of my head.
Can I dive into the first point a bit more? Because
sure.
I'm a preacher. It's what I'm most passionate about. Next month will be a decade for me preaching.
Awesome, man.
Oh, I'm old. When you talk about watering down the word, I think that is a real thing. I see it happen in a few different ways. I think sometimes I think there's 2 sides of the coin to me when how bad it can go. I think there's a side that where it becomes more of a motivational speech than a sermon. It becomes more about, feel good, make these changes, life gets better, and the word just becomes the word just kind of becomes the inspiration for it. The scripture becomes the inspiration for it and not the focal point. Then I think there is a flip side too, which I see out of a lot of young guys coming out of like seminary nowadays. They go and they preach these sermons. They are crazy theologically correct, but the average person doesn't understand a word that they're saying because they're using all the theological language from it that they learned in school that their professors probably thought sounded great until I taught them to preach. But the average person who just walked in, they don't know a word that you're saying. They don't know eschatology, theology, Trinity. They don't know this stuff. But I'd like you to say which one of those sides of the coin do you think is the overcomplicating of it, or did you have something else in mind?
Well, I'll reference, so my son was at a buddy's house the other day visiting, and so their parents had taken a picture and sent it to me, and they were sitting down the counter, and my youngest boy had one of the biggest steaks I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I think it was thick. And right next to him, he had one of the biggest glasses of milk I probably have ever seen in my life.
Milk steak.
So what does that mean? Well, as pastors, you need to bring a message that is both meat and milk.
Okay.
And what that means is oftentimes if you're delivering a message consistently that is only meat driven,
yeah,
well, that's probably an indication that no one new is getting saved in your church.
Yeah, I agree.
And furthermore, if you're only delivering milk messages, well, then how do you expect your congregation to really grow?
Yeah.
Grow within the word, grow. So when you're bringing forth that message, there need to be elements of both milk and meat consistently.
Yeah.
Not always one or the other, right? So and then there's a dynamic in that, but it's milk and meat.
Yeah, and I think what keeps people from doing that a lot of the time, one, they may not know any better. Mm-hmm. Because maybe they grew up in a church that was milk only or meat only, which is a lot of guys like that. To them, that's preaching, and they don't know any better. Mm-hmm. But I think what keeps other people away from it is that takes work, man. It takes a lot of work and thought. You can't just go into auto sermon writing and accomplish that. Mm-hmm. It takes work to say, man, how can I teach somebody who's been in church 40 years something they don't know while also giving someone real life application that they can take away from this. Mm-hmm. There's a way to do it. It's not impossible at any stretch because it's what I try and do. It's what I saw at the gathering when I went there. There is the intersection, but it just takes work. It takes study. And honestly, it just takes practice.
Sure.
It can take criticism too. One of the hardest things for me was taking criticism from my wife. When, after we got married, she started sitting through my sermons. I didn't want to hear her. I didn't want to hear her criticize something I've been doing for years. But then, as I'm forced to live with her every day and she's forced to be with me every Sunday, I'm like, man, she's right. Like everything, she's right. Yeah. And that's what helped me kind of get to that place is did you understand it? Did you learn something new?
Yeah.
And did I communicate it to you in a way that you actually were paying attention?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think all those are so good, man. Well, man, I want to wrap up today. Just stuff that you said, it's been so good. I've taken a lot from it. I'm sure people will take stuff away from it no matter what area of ministry they're at. I mean, man, you covered so much. The guys who are in the thick of it right now, the young guys who are just accepting the calling or, sitting under someone else's leadership, all the way to the guys that are coming towards the end of their time, maybe as staff in church or just their time as a lead pastor. Man, we covered the board today. Awesome.
That was good. That was good.
Awesome.
Good time.
If I could ask you to do one more thing for me before we go. This camera's looking into you right now. If you could pass on one thing to every pastor who's out there, if God gave you the ability just to say one thing and put it into the minds of every pastor in the world right now, what would you share with them?
I share with them, tell them, be in that ready position because the Lord's about ready to return. And you better be ready. Your church better be ready because his appearing is drawing near. Look up. Our redemption is drawing nigh. How about that? Am I supposed to look at the camera?
That's fine, man. Okay. We made it work.
All right.
Well, I appreciate having you on, Todd. I hope to see you again sometime.
All right, buddy. God bless.
God bless.